Hey everyone, it's the Miserable Movie Man back once again with another video. So this time I'm going to do 5 reasons why I love Star Trek the motion picture, all versions. Obviously I've seen the theatrical version, the director's cut, and I recently saw the enhanced SFX director's cut edition. But it was interesting to me, I had a friend come over recently and he's not a Trekker or Trekkie. I'm not sure which is the correct version now. It was Trekkie when I was a kid, then changed to Trekker, and now I think it's back to Trekkie. But anyway, he had never seen the Star Trek films before. I think he's seen the recent ones, but never seen the motion picture. So say what? We watched it together. He was pretty surprised at the lack of action. He's definitely more of a Star Wars kind of guy. But I certainly enjoyed the film, and regardless of which version it is, I'm going to give 5 reasons why I love it.
You crazy?
Now I know it was a divisive film. It came out in 1979 and it actively tried to be the opposite of what Star Wars was going for. I mean, Star Wars was the reason it got made, but the producers really were trying to go for a more cerebral, more 2001 style of film. So it issued action in favor of plot and mystery and intrigue. But with all that said, let's quickly dive into 5 reasons why I love Star Trek the motion picture. Reason number 1, it's the most James T Kirk Shatner-esque Shatner performance that you will see. Now, he has some great performances in other films, but I really think on this film they tried to give him as much as possible. If you watch how he composes himself, the things he does, the way he delivers his lines, the pauses, the hand motions.
The boy has the fire in him.
The eye motions, the facial tics. It is quintessential James T. Kirk. If you ever want a film to highlight why James T. Kirk is James T. Kirk, this is it. He wrestles command of the Enterprise back because he's Kirk. He didn't want to give it up, even though he recommended Decker for the role. Takes significantly calculated risks that don't always pay off. He seems to revel in the enjoyment of facing the unknown. He thinks on his feet. There are times where, Spock gives comments on what he's found out, and Kirk immediately will say something that shows he's having the same line of thinking.
He's a legend!
Towards the end, where Kirk really is struggling to come up with anything, he does the most Kirk thing he's ever done. He did it similarly before in the Corporal Mike maneuver. He bluffs. He bluffs with V'Ger. He tells V'Ger that he has the answer because he's assimilating all the information he's getting from Spock and others, that V'Ger is a machine, sentient, childlike entity, and he knows that V'Ger will want the answers. So he calls V'Ger's bluff, managed to get an audience one-on-one with V'Ger, and really, even though he thought he was smart in terms of finding the final transmission code to allow Voyager 6 to return the signal, he still manages to be the most Kirk he can be in terms of interactions and end result. Also, the way Kirk just throws his authority around, he specifically emphasizes that Decker's now commander. We kind of look towards him to basically tell him to fall in line.
Roger, there's no reason to do this by force.
He lets Bones tag along, and here's what Bones has to say, but essentially he's the captain. He even summons everyone in the recreation deck at 0400 hours. That's 4 a.m. So Kirk is pushing hard to show how Kirk he can be. He tells Scotty what he needs. He tells Scotty it's not good enough. I don't think the crew slept very well, purely because he is the captain and he is the most Shatner-esque and Kirk-esque he can be. Reason number 2, they really went all out on this film. I mean, it was the first motion picture big screen adaptation of the TV show. And the producers really wanted to highlight how cool that can be. They spent a ton of money on the models, a ton of money on the VFX. They really went for the grandiose, sweeping nature of what space travel could be. Now, of course, you couldn't do this in the original TV show with the limitations of the set and the budget.
It is not logical.
And even though the model and the TV show was good, they spent a significant amount of time and money and effort showcasing how majestic the Enterprise is in space. And they did things they couldn't do. They had their recreation deck, and they showed all the crew on it. They showed how you dock, where you dock. They showed the different rooms within. They showed engineering a lot more. They showed so much stuff on screen, you know, with the 1979 best special effects they could get, that it was really cool to see. They really went all out. They had aliens in the crew. I mean, before you saw aliens on the TV show, but not as part of the crew. But if you look at the recreation deck and look at some of the scenes, they, you know, had aliens as crew members way more so than they did going forwards. And they really wanted to showcase the big screen nature of what could be achieved with a Star Trek film. And yeah, while it didn't do that well at the box office, it did pretty well. It opened really well, and I think at one point Shatner was very excited that it was going to be a huge hit.
Don't get him started.
And then it tailed off, and he thought, well, they'd killed the franchise with this non-action oriented adventure. But it did well enough and received enough praise and credit from some quarters that the sequels got made. And so we had not just Wrath of Khan, but we had, you know, a whole string of Star Trek films, to the point where it was expected every few years there's going to be a Star Trek film. And unlike Star Wars, which had a period and then a significant cooling off, or really no content, and then it came back again when Lucas wanted to revive it in '99. With Star Trek, you knew there was going to be a film at some point.
Look, years ago, before the internet.
And yeah, while in the first film they really tried to hide the aging, they caked the makeup onto stars, to Shatner and Nimoy and DeForest Kelley. What was cool about it was later films they played into that aging aspect. I mean, certainly it was a theme in Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3, and they weren't afraid of it. But it was great to see them continuing to do things. I mean, they asked Shatner and Nimoy a few times, like, how long could he keep going? And he said, basically, as long as they can walk, they'll do the films, as long as there's a demand for them.
I am getting old.
And there was. It really, you know, created a revival and an interest that's led to things like Next Gen, and then the Next Gen films, and then the other TV shows. And the motion picture started all of that. So seeing it on the big screen, seeing what it was capable of, I think was great to see. Reason number 3. Bones. Bones gets some brilliant lines in this film. You see why Bones is needed. I think, you know, in the TV show, you knew Bones was a great foil for Kirk, and you knew that there were going to be many episodes where his medical expertise was needed. When he comes back in this film, he even says Chapel's an MD now, she's going to be arguing with him on everything, he doesn't need it. But you see that, you know, when Kirk is strong-arming people, Bones is the conscience. Bones is the guy that can talk to him in a way that Spock cannot, in a way that Jim will actually listen to what Bones is saying.
Smart boy.
There's, I think, a scene where Kirk gives an order and Decker thinks it's crazy, and he just looks at Bones like, are you going to say anything? Because you know he's not going to listen to me. There were times Bones did say things, and there were times Bones gave up. But you know, I think McCoy was really well used in this, and he had the best lines. He had the funniest lines. Chekhov says, "No damage to the ship, sir. No casualties." Bones says, "Wrong. My wits, as in scared out of."
That's terrible.
It is.
So, you know, you watch this film, Bones has the best lines. It's great in this film. Really enjoy his performance, especially the crotchety old man moaning about transporters, and actually being pleased to see Spock, and then telling Spock that, you know, yeah, he has no feelings, etc., etc. Reason number 4. I said Bones, but I'm also going to have to say Spock. I think Spock's great in this. I think Spock gets back to his roots. It's quite cool to see how they've all moved on since the end of their 5 years of exploratory adventures. Spock has gone back to Vulcan. He's trying to attain pure enlightenment. He's going for the Kolinar. He's trying to purge himself of his human emotions. And just at the point where he's about to do it, you know, Vijay sort of calls out and Spock can hear him.
He needs help!
So he has to go and reintegrate. He has to go and find out again, find what he was learning on the Enterprise, that there is a point to human emotions. They do have purpose and value, and they can add to people. Having logic is one thing, but you know, Vija is basically that mirror that Spock holds up to himself, saying, you know, if I am completely devoid of logic, this is how far I can go, but there is a limit. I will need the human side to understand leaps of faith. It's pretty cool when he turns up, the crew tries to integrate with him, but he's not having any of it, because he's almost at a point where he's back to the old Spock, and seeing the crew's interactions again, quite funny, quite interesting, and I think Leonard Nimoy plays it really well in terms of having that cold side to him.
It's cold. That's dead cold.
But as the film progresses, the human element comes back. You know, he cries, he laughs a little bit, he shows both Kirk and McCoy that he's capable of tapping into that side again. And of course Spock demonstrates why he's the smartest man in Starfleet. He calculations to assist engineering. He knows what Vija's going on about. He does a few crazy things. You can see that it's interesting. Spock is trying to purge himself of human emotion and be a purely logical creature, and that's why he wanted to join up with the Enterprise to fulfill his mission of achieving Kolinar. But his pursuit of Vija, his single-mindedness to get through the aperture to see what was going on, that shows a passion that he probably didn't realize is a human side of him. That passion and drive to find out what he needed.
Now see, that's acting.
And I think there were times where, and maybe the novelization I think added more, where he specifically didn't try and outmaneuver Vija or shut Vija down where there were options to do so, because he wanted to make contact with Vija. He felt Vija was his solution to achieving Kolinar, which obviously by the end he hasn't done. So there were a lot of cool aspects of Spock as a character, his journey, his regression, his ability to grow and find himself, and you know, showing off his smarts and his skills, as well as the way he interacts with the crew. So I really liked Spock in this film as a character.
That's what he's for.
There were some accusations from the main cast that there wasn't enough character development. They wanted more character interaction. They wanted more human drama. But I do think there was enough, at least enough for me in this first film, to get the franchise going. Final reason is the plot. I thought it was quite a cool plot with a twist ending. It reached for one of those sort of interesting plots. Now I know it was kind of been done before in the episode The Changeling, but you know, having the Enterprise explore the unknown, finding an alien, well, what they perceive to be alien creature, and dealing with those new experiences is really what the show is all about. It's really what the genesis and the heart and the idea of the original series was. So this film is probably one of the closest to that original series approach and Gene Roddenberry's original idea.
Yeah, we tried to make it match the original as close as we could.
I don't think he really envisaged loads of big space battles and Star Trek being such a military organization. This type of cool sci-fi plot where they come up against something they don't know, they are learning things, they're having these adventures. the twist at the end with who Vija really is, because Vija's achieved sentience after encountering a machine planet, living machines. Now, some people have presumed that could be the Borg. This was maybe their first Borg encounter, who initially found this machine and sent it back to fulfill its programming. I personally think that maybe Vija found Cybertron and encountered the Autobots and Decepticons who are millions of miles away from Earth. That would have been pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Say what?
But the actual plot, I thought, was a good sci-fi story. Yeah, it was kind of an episodic type sci-fi story stretched out over the course of a film, which is why the pacing is quite off. And I'm not going to defend this film's pacing. I'm not going to defend some of the choices this film made, because it's clearly not perfect. But I still do enjoy this film, and I thought the ambition of the plot, the attempt to try and recreate some of that original mystery of exploring, was laudable, should be rewarded. It was enjoyable for me to see on the screen. So that is the fifth and final reason why I love Star Trek the Motion Picture. There you go, there you have it. Those are my 5 reasons. I think I could do an entire critique of why the director's cut is way better than the theatrical version.
Tea Earl Grey, hot.
There's certainly a lot of scenes that were excised and pacing that were improved. So I think the director's cut is a pretty good film, actually. But I'm going to defend all versions of this film in terms of 5 reasons why I still enjoy it. Yeah, it's not the best Star Trek for me, but it's still good, still enjoyable. Definitely divides fans. Some people love it, some people hate it. Some people think it's too boring, some people think it's really what the original premise of the series was. So there you go, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with me, disagree with me? Do you have other reasons why you liked the film? Please like, share and subscribe to the channel, it really helps the algorithm, and as usual, catch you next time.